just forward it to her, and she'll give them a call back. And
I love
so
that.
right now
I
we
love
took
that.
2 listings in the last 2 weeks, and then I just sent out some listing paperwork. So we've only been doing this maybe for 6 weeks, and probably the first week or two was just getting them familiar with the scripts, role playing a little bit.
All right, folks, we're back, and I've got a great one for you today. We've got Corey Smallman out of Orlando, Florida, and Corey got my attention, a little while ago because he actually posted something in our Facebook group, talking about his ISA and the results they've gotten, and kind of pivoting, changing, mixing things up. Trying different lead sources, trying something different, and Corey really got my attention. Has been having great success with that. So I said, "Hey, why don't you come on?" And Corey was gracious enough to give us some of his time. He's a busy guy. So welcome to the show, Corey. And why don't you kick us off telling us a little bit about yourself? Like, tell us about your business, how long you've been in real estate, and where are you right now? Go for it.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thanks, Gus. My name is Corey Smallman. I'm an agent here in Orlando, Florida. This is about my 7th full-time year in the business. Mainly listing focused, and I do in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 listings per year, and looking to amp that up this year. And I'm on pace to definitely beat that this particular
Love it.
year.
I love it. I love that. And Corey, tell me, like, traditionally, what have been your sources of business? What have been kind of your main lead generation techniques? So you're a little unique. You're not like every other agent. Tell us about what's your main source of business for these last few years?
No, mine's been mail. When I first started, I'm no longer with Century 21, but when I first started there was a gentleman in the office, our manager, and I just told him, you know what, I can only work nights and weekends. So what are some different things to do to build my business? And he's like, write letters. And a lot of other people in the office were like, yeah, don't listen to that, but I'm going to listen to him anyway. And I think I got a little bit lucky. I was probably writing just like 100 letters a week or anything, nothing like I'm doing now. But right out of the gate, maybe about a month into it, I took 2 pretty quick listings.
Oh,
That was like
wow.
2018 or 2019. And, it just made me a believer. And then, of course, one time I read Grant Cardone's 10X book. So it's like, okay, let me 10X my numbers. And I just started building it to the point where, I think at this year already I've taken just short of 30 listings already this year just from mail specifically.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's outstanding because you started off kind of small scale, and a lead source worked for you, and you kind of accelerated that, right? I think a big mistake agents make, Corey, is that they started the business, something works for them, they get resources, they get money, and then they immediately want to put it into some other lead source,
Yep.
right? And I'm a big believer, like in what Grant says. Hey, what's working for you? Why don't you 10x that? Can you scale up that lead source before kind of chasing, the next thing, right? So I think that's great, that you kind of had that, foresight to go, hey, let me just quadruple down on what's actually working. So you've been based on mailers, and are you farming specific neighborhoods? Are you targeting those mailers to specific lists, or is it more like just you're farming the whole neighborhood with the same message?
It is absentee. I mean, I'm in the Orlando market, so we have a lot of, I mean, Florida
Oh
in
yeah.
general has a lot of absentees. So I do both out of state absentees. Traditionally, I've only done out of state absentees. And I have it built into my mailing budget every year that I can try some new mailers. I'll try them for at least 6 months. Like I'm not doing them for a week or two and seeing like I'm really putting some stuff behind.
Wow.
Sometimes they pan out and sometimes they don't. I'll
Yeah.
A/B test some stuff, change the message, but I build that. So this year I decided to try some in-state where they live in Florida, but they don't live
Mhm.
in that particular home. Maybe it's a rental or whatever the reason is that they, don't live in it. So I've actually been starting to get a few listings from there. I'm getting ready to list a couple of really nice pieces of acreage with a house on them, like 12 acres, 5 acres in the next few weeks. And
Well,
she's also buying like a $900,000 property. So about 2 million off that one letter. But I've also taken some other listings. So pretty much out of state and in state. And then I'm also mailing expireds as well.
I gotcha, I gotcha.
Been good
And
for me this year.
because and that's been, tell us about that shift though, right? Because you're coming from a pretty robust business, you're prospecting, mailing. I guess you can call mailing farming, but you're looking for people to respond to you. It's kind of direct response kind of marketing, right?
Right.
And you're getting people to respond to you. What was the shift, right? And or actually, look, let me take a step even further back than that. Why an ISA? You're sending out these mailers. People are coming to you. What was the motivation to get someone helping you call last year?
If I'm being totally transparent, I started coaching with a coaching program that's very prospecting based, and still with the phone reluctance. I was like, I see the value in calling, so at least me have somebody doing the calling for me.
Got it.
Um, a little bit moving forward, just listen to some of the podcasts you did with like Johnny. He talks about the player coach, and then I also, talked to my coach Greg and asked him about, ISAs and that kind of thing. He said
Mm,
absolutely 100% an ISA, but after not to replace your calling, but in addition to. So
correct.
it's been a tough thing, but I'm getting to the point where it doesn't make sense to have ISAs doing that if you're not going to be doing it yourself. Because number one, you don't know the conversations to have, and to know the market, what people there's objections that are unique to specific markets or what's going on in the market at that time, and just to be in the game with your ISA. And when you are making those calls, there's no better leverage use of your time. I mean, I can sit here and handwrite envelopes all day long, and yes, is it worth the money? I do it 100%, but not to the degree where if you make a lot of calls and get a lot of contacts, that
Gotcha.
dollar per hour ROI is much better on the phone calls.
Gotcha. So it was, it was more like a strategic shift. You say, you know what, mailers, I mean, they have this cost basis. They're getting me these kinds of results. You're saying, hey, I need to balance out my business and not just rely on mailers. Do more direct outreach, not just direct response, but direct outreach kind of marketing. And this came from Greg, looking at not just farming folks that are out of state or absentee owners, but also looking to, quite frankly, higher converting lead sources
Right,
like expired. That was the big bet. Like, hey, I'm gonna figure out expireds. I got to do more outbound prospecting. Because I agree with you. It is only maybe your personal database is a higher ROI, like
right,
per dollar activity than outbound prospecting. It is the highest ROI activity you can do, other than calling people you already know, right? That may be about probably number one, but
right.
prospecting is a close number two. I love
No,
that.
absolutely.
So you got an ISA. This was about 8-9 months ago. You got someone in there. What happened? And then because you pivoted recently, you had them doing a certain level of activity, kind of very top of funnel activity, and then you kind of had that pivot. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, first, initially, just I told you the source of my business has been the mail, so and a lot of out of state initially. So it's people that maybe have a home by Disney, they're selling it, and their kids grown older, don't want to go to Disney anymore. They sell that. Maybe they move to South Florida. I mean, not move there, but at least get a beach home or something for their winter vacationing as well. But so I don't have a lot of repeat and referral business. I did get some occasionally, some here and there, but it was just a going out. It gets old, going out
Yeah.
and hunting every day instead of some of that repeat referral farming business coming in where you can actually scale it. So initially, I hired Edgar to help me build a database just because I was, 6, 7 years into the business, and pretty much a database of zero was just embarrassing to me
Oh,
when I was
a
following
lot of
some coaching.
databases from the whole country, but not Florida. You had people in the list, but they just didn't happen to live there.
Right, right. So initially, that's what I was wanting to, have Edgar as my ISA. Show it to Edgar. He's been killing it. So he has been going on there and putting the people into it. He gets we'll call them, maybe it's a circle prospecting. So we have a couple different things we'll ask them. It's, we just sold neighbor's house. Have you thought about selling? If they haven't, do you know anybody else looking to buy or sell, maybe in the neighborhood? And then, well, if not, great, this is your forever home. You love it. And it's like, I don't blame you. Can we get what Corey can do is he's doing it for some of the other neighbors, is just keeping them updated with what's going on in the community with the home sales, just, the value of your home at all time, just like your retirement portfolio kind of thing. So he's having that conversation just so we're getting permission to get emails from people. So when he was first doing that, when we were first doing that, we've added, I think I did look the other day, and he's right around 500 or 600 people that he's put into the
Oh
database
wow,
over the
that's
last
awesome.
several months before we made the shift to, we're still doing that. Don't get me wrong. We're still doing some circle prospecting around some things that I'm selling or just listed. But we've just shifted. And I think a lot of it came with success of the expired letters that I've been doing.
Mhm.
Um,
I got you.
big getting, so I just see a lot of, the market's slowing down a lot here in Florida as well too. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of expireds. Some of it is pricing, some of it's just the market in general. It's got to be priced really low, or but some of it has been. We've just taken a couple of listings. from the expired letters where we put them back on the market. And within the first week, like literally the first 2 or 3 days, they were, went under contract. So some of it's
Gotcha.
timing, some of it's marketing. There's a lot of different things. But with the success of that, I was like, okay, it's time for me to really start hitting the expireds. And, Greg over at ASA Coaching really got us focused on that right now in this market and like going really, really heavy into that. So we've been doing that, and I get Edgar doing some of the old expireds. And ideally, I
Mm,
could be doing that kind of stuff myself as well. But just the mail to the degree that we're sending it, like I said, almost 20,000 pieces a month is just very
wow.
labor intensive. And my wife works with me as well. So that probably eats up 8 hours a day, like 4 hours each for both of us.
Mhm.
Um,
And these are handwritten. Or do you have like a machine, or is it like a service that sends these out? Because that's a massive amount
Yeah,
of
the
mailers going out.
expireds, we handwrite the envelopes for those. Just the person
Wow.
who said to do those was very specific about the way they needed to be done. But no, if I showed you my office to my left and to my right, I have two big machines. One's a printer that prints the envelopes that makes them look handwritten, and it does about 3,000 per hour. And then I have
Wow.
a stuffer machine over here as well that stuffs them and stuff. So it's basically the expired letters that we're doing out because we're
I
probably sending out
got.
about 150 a day, and they're all
Oh wow.
handwritten, so it's just a little bit labor intensive. So,
I
but I'm looking to
got you.
get
Got you. Got
somebody to do that within the next month to take that off, so my
you.
wife and I can actually get on the phones for at least replace that 4 hours a day for both of us to go back on the phones. We both
Got
do
it.
get on the phones now, but just not to the degree that I like really, really want to.
I got you. I got you. That's great. Okay, so let me unpack a little bit of that, because that's a great project. You because initially, you got a unique challenge, Corey, right? Because not every you kind of do it the opposite of what most agents have. Most agents have a personal database. They
Right,
just don't call it usually. A different angle, same kind of problem, right? They're
right,
just not getting the most out of it. You have a very successful, out of state kind of prospecting, farming, follow up based business with people out of state. But you're right, it doesn't lend itself to repeat and referral. It's just very difficult to do that, right?
right,
Just with the kind of niche you've decided to target. So, but I will say this: you learn how to build a business that isn't just based on people you know. It's a very valuable skill set. Okay,
right,
because the absentee owner has no idea who you are. Like, who's
right,
Corey? Who the hell knows, right? I mean, I get called by all these people. I get mailed by all these people. I have a property in Orlando. I mean, you're not the only one sending them pieces of mail. Not the only one trying to contact them, right?
right,
You got to convince someone that doesn't know you to work with you. So that skill set, I think, is like the most, getting unmet people to work with you is an
right,
unbelievably valuable skill set. You've been working on that for years. So that's great. And you said, okay, I need a database now, like a personal data local to Orlando that I can actually farm to and communicate with, get permission to market to them. So
yep,
I say that's initial project one was, let's build a local database, right?
yep,
Farming based, calling the neighborhoods around your listings. Agents. So anyone watching this, if you're an agent that's listing heavy, like that, the focused, actual, true listing agent, you've got active inventory. You or someone should be prospecting those neighborhoods,
yep,
because you've got the most compelling pitch that you can make. Hey, I just sold a home in this area. I just sold a home. Maybe there was a couple buyers left over. Hey, I'm looking for more. Or I found 2, 3 buyers that want something, but I couldn't offer it to them. They didn't meet their needs. I'm trying to do right by them, trying to help
yep.
them out. Can you help an agent out here, right? Who do you know that might be thinking of selling? But it's very different than calling out of the blue. I just want to find some sellers. No, no, no. You're taking action. Like you're a mover and a shaker. You're doing activity. And in a market that's slower or slowing down, that sets you apart tremendously, right? You're
Oh
not
yeah,
just
yep,
hoping that the seller wants to sell at that moment. No, no, no. I work with sellers and I get homes sold. An agent becomes more valuable. And that's my belief, at least. I think an agent
yep.
becomes more valuable in a shifting market than when homes sell in about 2 minutes from hitting the MLS. That's my take on it. I think people
No,
actually look for value.
100%. So,
Yeah, they want a pro. They want a pro that has a team, right? That knows how to generate business and that spends money on marketing. Because when homes sell in about 2 minutes, I think that we get commoditized very, very quickly. And it's just a
no,
race to the bottom a lot of times,
100%.
right? It becomes much harder. So you had the ISA building that database, and then you get focused on the expired, inventory, because
Yep,
now's the time when the market shifts. what happens? For sale by owners tend to go down, expired listings and cancel listings tend to go up.
Yeah.
Like that's what's available. You're shifting with the market. And that's something I really want to tell the audience today. If Corey were to stick with what was working a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you're going to have a tough 2025, Corey. It's not going to be fun, right? Your income's going to be going down. You're going to be going down with the market, okay? Your income could be down 30% from a couple of years ago because the market's down 30% from a couple of years ago, okay? If you do nothing, if you don't change what you're doing, if you're rock and rolling like it's 2021, you're down 30%, probably 40%, probably doing worse than the market, okay? If you don't change. If you pivot and you become an expert in the market of today, not the one from 3 years ago, 2025, you can do what you're doing. You're having a banner year. Okay, you're on track to blow last year out of the water. You're beating the market, and the market in Florida is not doing well. Okay, let's just be honest. It's not. Sales are down, right? Sales are down. Inventory is up. People are struggling in Florida. Your business doesn't have to. Your business, but it does take, the movement. You gotta pivot. You gotta switch it up. And and I was an agent for a long time. I cut my teeth calling old expireds. Because what? Because the market shifted. I started calling in 2013. I was giving them a lot of good news, Corey. I was calling a lot of those expires from 08, 09, 20, 10, 11, 12. It was the best call I'd ever gotten. That was pretty easy, like shooting fish in a barrel. Hey, homes went up this year after 5 years of going down, right? Hey, so that I get it. That when there's a lot of expireds, you gotta shift to the market of that moment and figure it out, right? Yeah, your skill set wasn't an expired. Of course not, it wasn't. But you knew how to talk to unmet leads. You knew how to talk to sellers. You knew how to get homes sold. That adaptability. Number one, I commend you for that. That's admirable because a lot of agents are struggling with that right now. And their normal reaction, Corey, is the market's terrible. And they're right, actually. Objectively, they're correct. But it doesn't mean that your business has to go with the market straight down. Like,
and that's why I'm in the coaching, and like that's a big thing. What we're talking about right now in the coaching program is just the market is not your market. Yes, we're going to acknowledge it's tough time because we have to have those conversations with the sellers, but your market doesn't have to be like that. People are still selling. I log into my MLS every day and check what happened in the last week, and it's okay. If there's 1,500 new listings, like why didn't I get one of those? But usually every week now I'm getting at least one or two of those. Sometimes three.
I love that. So shout out to Greg, and Abe and those guys. I think they do a great job. I'm a big fan. Greg's been on the show. And I think that's the right message to give. The market is not your destiny. The market is not your destiny. Because I see a lot of agents blaming the market. Oh, how can I do well? Market's this way. No, not necessarily, right? So let's get back to the story. Sure. You decide to make that shift. You're focusing on expireds, and you switch over your ISA from focusing on Circle, building the database, to focusing on expireds. And what has the results been from that shift?
Obviously we're building we do have a database that he's built. So I have him put everybody in, everybody that we've taken since he's been there. I have him put them into Sierra Interactive as my CRM. It's the one my brokerage provides, and it does very well for us. So he puts everybody in there, tags them as him, and he's like, why do you want me to put that? And I just explained to him, both for tracking, but also, he is on a reward program where, he gets bonused on closings. Well, I actually told him, the deal was, I was going to give him $400 per sale.
I love that.
But then I broke it down. It's like, let's do it 50 and 350. That way, if you get me a listing appointment and I go and take an overpriced listing, you did your job. I'm taking the listing. And if I can't sell it, that's on me, not on you. So let me at least give him a little bit of something. I want to reward him along the way. So
100%. I love that because that's huge. That's huge. Kind of breaking it out. Sometimes people want to do like a really big bonus on the back end, and I understand why. It's better to kind of spread it out a little bit.
Now you want some carrots along the way and just feel like you're earning something and things are working together. So yeah, he's obviously, he's I think the majority of your ISAs do come from Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, but he definitely is. He's Mexico City, and of course, perfect English, but also the Spanish as well. So here in Central Florida, we have a large contingent of Spanish-speaking people. So he's able to get me some people there. And before, I probably would not have just been able to do anything with those, but I have, because I get some people from my letters. I have a lady here at my office, that takes the leads. And I think between things that Edgar's given her and stuff I've gotten from my mail, I think we're working on 4 or 5 deals right now, putting them together, listings and stuff. So the Spanish is very well. He'll send me the call. I'll just forward it to her, and she'll give him a call back. And
I love
so right
that.
now
I
we
love
took
that.
2 listings in the last 2 weeks. And then I just sent out some listing paperwork. So we've only been doing this maybe for 6 weeks. And probably the first week or two was, just getting him familiar with the scripts, role playing a little bit. Um, we don't spend a lot of time role playing. If we do a new lead source, we will for the first while till he just really gets a good feel for the script. But he still will send me calls that I will listen to as well. And I do want to coach along, but not like you could have done this a little bit better and just a little bit here and there, so it doesn't feel like you're just constantly negative
Uh,
the entire time. But no, he's been doing good. He just actually before we jumped on this call, just sent me somebody that wants to. He's usually just doing, I think maybe Brandon Mulren, and I know some other people that you'd talk to, and they talk about shaking the trees. So that's how I
Okay.
want to use them. I know some people. I think on that post that you were talking about that I posted, I think somebody was saying I just want somebody to set appointments or something to that effect, or maybe I forget how she worded it, but I just said
Yeah.
if you expect them just to, come on day one and start setting you appointments and you don't have to jump on the phone, like that's the worst thing to do. And full transparency, that was my goal. I just didn't want to jump on the phones and everything. So I've been having a lot of call reluctance, but it's like, you can have one of two pains. You can have the pain of doing the work that you don't think you want to do, or you can have the pain of not getting the results that you really want. So um, I've committed to do the first and jump on the phones, do the phone calls. So
I
I'm
love
doing
that.
the new expireds. I got Edgar doing the old expireds, and then we're doing the mail as well. And some point over the next month, I'll start building a custom audience, on Facebook and hitting them kind of land, sea, and air kind of thing. So
I
just
love that. I
elevate.
love that.
We probably have at least 7 to 8 people that I'm having in a database that I could think would list in the next 3 months if we just stay in front of them. They just have extenuating circumstances that's slowing them down a little bit, and that they want to wait till for whatever reason. But we have probably about, I'd say at least a good solid 6 that I'm communicating with, and then we have like I said 2. I just sent one out for to get signed, and then we also have um, there's another one that we're going to be listing, also Spanish speaking. So,
Ah, cool.
2 Spanish and 2 English leads for me probably in the last, I want to say,
Not
six
bad.
weeks. But the
Yeah. So four listings in
but
the
he's been getting me a lot
pipeline.
more leads than that. Just some of
Yeah.
them I've been on appointments and they like everything I said and they just have been ghosting or whatever. So it's not like he hasn't been setting a lot of good phone appointments. And that's all he's doing is
Gotcha.
just he's just getting people to raise their hand like, yeah, we'd like to talk to Corey. So, I'm doing my prospecting and maybe getting one good solid lead a day. Obviously we're putting more people into the database, but I'm talking about like a good lead who might be ready to do
Yeah.
something in
Solid.
like 60 days. So
Yeah.
I'm
A
getting
high
one a
value.
day, and then he's probably popping me at least 2 people that want to talk. So I'll have a conversation with them. It might be where I'm probably getting a good one maybe every other day for him, but still other ones where we're having good conversations and we'll still put them in the database, but just not ready to go in the next 60 days. And then I probably get 2 or 3 calls every day from my mail as well. So it's starting to scale a little bit. I mean, ideally my goal would be to get things really smooth with Edgar and just really it's because initially I think as we talked, I was building a database, so that's kind of top funnel heavy, so it's not a great ROI, so it's hard to maintain a program. I don't want to do my mail to feed another program. I want the program to be self-sufficient. So with a couple listings he just gave, those go under like we'll be there. Then the next goal will
Okay.
be to maybe take a couple commission checks and put those back in the bank and just set that aside for the next ISA for 6 months. And I already talked to Edgar about. He just caught on really, really well. My broker actually uses them for
Mm.
um, calling some people when they first get their license to see if they'd be interested. He does an
Oh,
hour a
agent
day.
recruitment. Agent recruit. I love that. That's
He
awesome.
does an
That's
hour
smart.
a
That's a
day
smart
of
move.
that just to and make some extra money, and it's good for his skills. And my broker's like, he has really, really good phone skills, Corey. Like you got really lucky with him. So I'd really like to
Love that.
utilize him in, like training some of the next ones. And we've just built a bond. We have, we have a lot. We joke back and forth a lot and just have a really good bond. I mean, he just started with me, so he really wasn't. Um, I still obviously gave him Christmas off and that kind of thing with pay, but I also just he said things have been slow with his last job because the person let him go and whatever. So I just told him, here's $100 extra, but it's for you to take your wife and son out to dinner for Christmas dinner, and you can't work for me next week if you don't send me a picture of you eating. So he did that, but he absolutely loves stuff. If I
Yeah.
really get it going, his birthday is February the 25th, and my wife and our anniversary is the same. So we were on a cruise, and we're actually in Cancun. Well, we went to Tulum. So I sent him pictures, and he didn't tell me it was his birthday beforehand. He's like, "Oh, it's my birthday," and I was telling my wife, "How cool would it be? We always go on a cruise or something like that, but how cool would it be if we like flew to Cancun, stayed at all inclusive, and get Edgar to come stay for 3 or 4 days, pay that for his and his family? It's not a lot over our pockets, and I don't know. I'm more of one. Yes, you have to have those boundaries of employee, but it doesn't mean you can't have a great culture and just really reward people as well. I think some people get
100%.
ISAs and VAs stateside, and it's like, oh yeah, we can work them almost like slaves for $3 or $4 an hour, and it just seems like it's pumping up your income statement. Um, but I want to, let him feel the love and get some of that. When I'm doing good, I want him to do good.
Yeah, 100%, and I love that, right? I mean, it doesn't, and not now that, it makes a lot of sense. You've got a very motivated person with really good
Yep.
skills in your corner. Because that all those details, right? Those things add up. People remember those things, right? And that is good for retention, and that is good for giving it 110%.
Yep.
Because when anyone on your team, this doesn't just go for ISA. When anyone
No,
on your
for
team
sure.
feels like it's a win-win situation, that's where you want to be, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, let's grow together. If you win, I win, and then we share in the results, right? So that's a great feeling. That's a
Yep.
great strategy to have someone in your corner that way. So I absolutely love that, and it's not surprising you're having success, right? Because like they're 100% motivated, right? And that's great. And people, people might think that's not that important, or maybe that they think that that's not that big a deal. It is a big deal. I think you're doing a very smart thing, right? I'm sure
No, for
you did
sure.
it for a lot of reasons, but I think that's a good business move. I think it's a great personal move as well, but I think it's a very smart business move having someone like that ready to go for you, to
Yep.
bat for you guys, because you're reaping the rewards. I really think that's true, 100%. And when you have that, when you're basing your business on that generosity, that abundance kind of mindset, it changes the game. If you
Right.
had that scarcity mindset, a lot of team leaders have that, especially now with the market the
Yep.
way it is, of
No, for
course, right?
sure. Everybody's
I
cutting back.
understand. I have
Yep.
empathy for it. I understand it. It can be hard to have an abundance mindset in a market that's declining. But if you flip it on its head, right, and you have a team focused on that, I think the growth comes, right? I mean, I
Yep.
think that's the right way to do it. I think you're doing it the right way. And having someone, in your corner that's motivated, that's the game. Like that, you can get great, great, great results from something like that. So, Corey, it doesn't surprise me now. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Having that great culture, having that great relationship, it sets everything else up. But you know what? It's both, right? It's
Right.
both things. It's the
Yep.
skill set and the drive and the really good
Yep.
relationship, right? Sometimes agents can make that mistake as well. They have a great relationship and they feel that accountability is going to get in the way of the relationship. I go, no, no, you got it backwards, actually, right? You
Right.
you have the great relationship because they're accountable to results. It's not that we have a great relationship, and you think accountability can kind of get in the way, right? That's a
Right.
big thing. And another thing you mentioned, which I want to restate because it's so important, is that model of shaking the tree. Right.
Yep.
I cannot say that enough times. You probably even seen me say it, a few times already. Um, that's not just a recommendation. And what I mean by that is the ISA makes calls, and the ISA's job is to find what I call like a qualified seller lead. What is that?
Right.
Confirmed homeowner, confirmed contact information, and they've got curiosity, questions, something about selling, right? It doesn't have to be an appointment. That's not an appointment.
Yep.
Under any definition, that's not an appointment. And I agree with that. I agree with that. It's a much lower bar than an appointment. Motivated seller, qualified seller lead, confirmed homeowner, confirmed information, something about a question or about something, and they didn't hang up on you when you talked about selling, right?
Right.
So there's something there. They should hand off all of those to you.
Yep.
They should go to you, right? Right? Because Corey knows how to talk to unmet leads that are sellers that might be thinking of selling.
Yep.
That's your job, right? To talk to those people. And the ISA should give you as many of those as possible. That's what I mean by shake the tree. And that's just not a recommendation. It is the only way I've seen this model work.
Yeah.
So it's not like oh, it's the best practice. No, it's the only practice, right? It's a
Right.
little bit stronger than that. So I want to emphasize that for the audience. Like this is the only way I've seen it work, because what happens when the agents set the bar way too high, I only want like listing appointments that are ready to go. Like they're interviewing agents. That is a very, very small percentage at any given time. Or what's even worse, the ISA hasn't set up the rapport yet. They haven't earned the right to ask for that appointment, right? Because
Right.
they're just starting the relationship, and they don't have. Also, quite frankly, they don't have the knowledge you have to have that conversation with them, right? They don't
Right.
have the local knowledge. They're not a local person, right? So they're great at qualifying. Is this person a seller? They have some kind of motivation. They can do that really, really well. The market in Orlando is not their area of expertise, right?
No, for sure.
What kind of a property is it? Right? Is it more of a holiday, rental property? Is it a
Right.
second home? Is it more residential? What is it? They might make a mistake there. It's not their job. I don't think that's their job. The local expert is Corey, and the answer to any question is you should talk to Corey. That's the answer to any of these like really difficult objections. Talk to Corey. Corey is the solution. You have a problem? Corey's the solution. Get a question? Corey's also the solution.
Yep.
Great. When can you talk to Corey? I'll have him reach out to you tomorrow. In fact, I don't even like setting appointments for these kinds of the initial contact. Corey will reach out tomorrow or this afternoon, right? Whenever you're available. Corey will introduce himself and he can answer any questions you got. Boom. Like hand them over,
Yep.
hand them off, and just do that at scale. Like get a rhythm going. 1, 2, 3 a day. That can scale up. And even the calling you're doing, Corey, on your own,
Yeah.
generating a solid lead every day. Like if agent, so I don't ever listen to this. Maybe you don't have an ISA, not yet. If you can get on the phone and generate one solid lead every single day, that might be selling in the next year. I mean, I'm going to even go wide, Corey. Not even the
Yeah.
next 60 days. I'm talking
Yeah.
the next year. That will change your business. People might have a problem wrapping their head around that concept.
Yep.
You're gonna have to trust me on that. If you can generate one solid seller that's going to sell in the next year, every day, Monday through Friday, make it easy, Monday through Friday.
Right.
It'll change. It'll transform your business. It will, right? 100%. And so people can lose track of that. So Corey's got you guys beat. He's doing like maybe 3 or 4 days some days, right? Okay, that he's got a different goal than most agents do. But if most agents got one unmet
Yep.
qualified seller every single day, completely transform their business. And within 3 to 4 months, they'd be getting at least one listing per month from that.
You have
Just
a good
that
follow-up
activity.
system. Yeah.
100% if they're following up with them, right? And I don't even mean like a super intensive, because these are outbound prospecting leads. You don't
Yeah.
need, and Sierra is a great CRM. They don't need like a bunch of automation to bombard. No, they don't need that actually. Monthly follow-up, check, making sure you're adding value, check it in, and you're going to get a lot of business from that. But it's that activity.
Yep.
So Corey, why don't you share with the audience a little bit, because a lot of folks would like to do what you're doing. And you feel you're struggling, maybe you're not where you want to be. You're way ahead of most agents. Let me just say that. Where did you go to get that motivation to get on the phone, right? Because you had an inbound marketing system. You had the
Yep.
dream, Corey. You were living the dream most agents have of having a lead system that can generate inbound phone calls. But what drove you to pick up that phone and start with outbound? Where did you go? Where did you go to get the motivation, the
Yep.
strength, the drive to actually pick up the phone and make those calls?
I mean, I've always, wanted to do good, but if I'm being very transparent, probably up until 3 or 4 years ago, I had never made, 6 figures in my life and just didn't know a lot of people that did. It was the circles that I was running in. And, there was one year I had a decent year in the business, and I was able to take my family to Hawaii, which I never thought I'd be able to. And it was just a cool trip and everything. So that was maybe I won a little bit more. And I ended up signing, I've always followed some just to try to have a little bit, like maybe some Jim Rohn and some stuff, like not into it a lot, but I'd listen to some. But it's like, what, I'm going to start listening to more. And I signed up for, I think it was the year right after COVID, maybe, or right around COVID. I think it was the year after COVID that I went to a Tony Robbins UPW event,
Wow.
Unleash the Power Within. And he just did that. I don't know if you've ever been
Nope.
to a Tony Robbins
But
event.
I'm a huge fan of Tony. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of Tony. Just haven't been to his events. I love it.
So he did this thing he calls the Dickinson method, and he just turns the lights down. There's music playing. He's just talking to you, and it's basically the ghosts of the past, the present, and the future. Like imagine all the negative things you've did in your life all at once, and so you have this room full of 10,000 people just in the dark, and he's talking to them and everything. And then he goes on to think about your future now, and he's like, if you don't make any changes, and all your worst things that you did in the past are exemplified, like envision how that would make you feel or whatever. And you just hear people like wailing and just crying and like grown adults, and it's just like if hell is like weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth, like that's just what it sounded like. And I don't know how he did it and hypnotized me, but I just got going. I have a 15-year-old that was a micro preemie born 4 months early. He was only a pound and a he was only a pound and 2 ounces when he was born. So I don't know why my brain went to him, but it just went to him, and I imagined me laying beside or sitting beside him, and he was in a hospital and needed a brain surgery because he's had a couple brain surgeries, and he's doing fine. I mean, I just dropped him off earlier today, and he's doing absolutely fine, doing good. He's in high school and everything, but for some reason, my brain just went to, he needed this operation,
What if?
and
What if?
and if
Huh?
what and he could only get it, but it was going to be in Switzerland. It was a new thing, and it was $250,000. And I'm just telling, in my mind, I'm looking at him and telling him goodbye.
Wow.
I'm sorry, and I wish I would have worked harder, so I could have had the money to
Wow.
pay for that. And it was just, I just came home with a new vigor from that, and it probably was not only maybe a month later, if that, that Greg and them decided they were starting the coaching program, and I just jumped in. And I'm being honest. I told Greg if I would have started day one doing what you said, my business would be so much further where it is now. But better late than never, is what I'm doing. So, yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's holy cow. I wasn't sure what you're going to say with that question, but I didn't expect that. That's a big why. Like
yeah,
that's a big, 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 like visceral. I've got kids too. Like it comes from there. Like that's like a great motivation. I don't think you need anything else other than that. And also getting really good advice too, right? So it's because motivation isn't enough.
right,
And because a lot of agents work really hard. There's a
yeah.
lot of hard-working agents out there that do a lot of activity, but
You
what they
got to do
lack
the
is
right things.
results. They're
Yeah,
not doing the right things. They're not
yeah,
doing the right things. They're not, doing it the right way, right? They're
yeah,
not. They're either lacking amount of activity or lacking quality of activity. And
right,
sometimes they get the bonanza. They're missing both, actually, right? They're doing too little, and it's not really good quality. So you need both things. You need to be doing enough activity, and you got to do it the right way. And I've never seen another way to accelerate that than with a really good coaching program. I
yeah,
have a coach as well. Like I 100% because at the stage of business where I'm in, I'm like, I don't want to figure this out in a year or two.
no,
I like to figure this out in a month or
yeah,
two. And again, like you said, Corey, I'm being transparent too. If I did everything my coaches said, I'd be further along as
yeah,
well. But I'm here in spite of that, right? In spite of
right,
the mistakes I've made, I think we're where we are in our business. And I feel that we're further ahead than the average, not where we want to be. I don't think you're ever 100% satisfied, but that's always the drive as well. It's
yeah,
part of the game. But getting a good coach and getting some good advice helps with that. Holds you accountable to doing enough activity, but most importantly, the right activity,
yeah,
right? The right activity. Because I see a lot of really hardworking agents that are really struggling right now because they're just not doing the right thing and they're not doing it the right way. So I
yeah.
love that. So Corey, this has been, a joy. I love this. This has been great. And one last question. If you're talking to someone that's on the fence, hiring an ISA, adding some of that leverage, maybe even trying out outbound prospecting for the
Yeah.
first time. Not easy to do. Like it's a shift. What would you say to them? What would you comment on that?
I'd say don't do it the way I did it. Do it for the right reasons. Do it the right way. Don't do it to replace you. Do it to add on because the way it can magnify your business. Like I said, my wife and I are calling now, and if we're each getting a lead, and I'm getting like a solid one every other day from Edgar, it's giving us several in a week versus just one for each of us. So it really scales, but you need to also have the be on it and doing it yourself. So you can have the conversations with him coaching, with what's going on in the market, what he's hearing sellers say. So you can have that. And I think it just builds camaraderie too. I mean, we're really looking to take our, for the rest of the year. Usually in any given year, I never carry that many listings from year to year. So it's why I never really get good momentum going. But like right now I have 14 and my goal is to get it up to 30 by
Love it.
going into
Love it.
January, so I can try to hit my goal of 100 for next year. So that
I
is the
love
goal.
it.
It's what we're really aiming for. So we want to, starting soon, go ahead and get logged into a Zoom to where we're getting on there with Edgar, make him feel like he's part of it. We can ask questions back and forth, especially on Mondays. We're calling it Mondays, and it's just literally from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. We'll have to jump off for an hour here and there for some servicing, but pretty much 8 to 10 hours on the phone on Monday is just all.
Boom.
And he's willing to work some
Sets
overtime
the
too,
tone.
and we
Sets the
just
tone
want
for
to
the week.
for the entire week. So I'd say definitely, be involved. If you think you're just gonna, I I knew you guys coached them, with the conversations and things like that. But even from day one, I was jumping on the phones, not to take away from what you guys were doing. You guys are helping make them come with the conversations, but for the lead source and things that I was doing, I was just wanting them to be, ready at day one.
Love it.
And I was ready to buy him out, to have him come work for me a little bit earlier, just because I had worked with him. But it just gave him that confidence too, and just give the feedback. Um, but also, I would tell people to either have some money set aside um, for probably 6 months if you're going to do the database building thing that I did. But if you're looking to go straight into, which I would probably recommend, calling some expireds and some different sources, that's going to get you some business right out of the gate. Um, just help them as much as possible to get up and making the calls so it becomes very profitable. And like any good lead source, when it becomes profitable like that, you just want to keep adding to it. So my goal would be I'd love to have 3 or 4 just setting appointments. Um, Ideally, I want to build a very small team just with some showing agents. I don't want anything big. Just my wife and I, both as listing agents. We like to travel a lot. We like to take a large trip at least every quarter, and I'd like to up that if I could when I get that built out. But I'd love to have about 3 or 4 ISAs, and not for her and I to get off the phones. Just maybe instead of doing those 8-hour days in the phones, we're just doing, 8 to 11, and then going on
100%.
appointments in the afternoon that we set for ourselves, and then 3 or 4 ISAs set for us too. So that's the goal. I'd like to by next year, take as many listings from the phone prospecting as I do, and the letters. And I think
The
that'll be
mailers.
50 to 60 letters or listings from letters this year. I'm on pace to take probably at least 60, just from the letters. So I'd like to be able to do 75 and 75 with my wife and I working. I think 150, 75 from letters and
Love that.
75 from phone prospecting would be a solid business.
Yeah, 100%, and it's a very, very profitable, right?
Yep.
Because, sometimes people throw out those numbers. Oh, I closed 100 deals. Yeah, but you got them from Zillow, and the profitability there, again, I don't want to knock Zillow either. It's just lower.
Right.
I'll be charitable. It's a lower, you can, if you're not investing the right way, you can have a high transaction count and not make that much money,
Yeah. No,
right?
for sure.
And you don't want to be in the situation where you build a team and you make less money than when
Yeah.
Corey was solo. Like, well, that doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, right?
No, not at
But the
all.
way you guys are envisioning it, that's a very profitable business, a
Yep.
very profitable business, and that's what we're doing it for, right? For the freedom,
Yep.
for the advantage of that, not to be enslaved to the business as well. So Corey, I love that. It's a great goal to have. You're well on your way to doing something like that. Scaling it up, tripling your business in this market. Let's just say
Yep.
that too. Like in a bad, a slow market, a challenging
Right.
market. It's challenging, like I said before, it's challenging if you don't adapt. It's terrible if you don't adapt. You're going down faster than the market is if you're not adapting. But if you do have the courage, the advice, the coaching to make that shift with the market, the opportunity's there. It's there for the taking, right?
Yep.
And so, congratulations on that for you. You guys deserve all the success you're having, and from here on up, like get on that rocket ship. So
No, I appreciate
awesome,
it. I definitely say
awesome.
if anybody was thinking about it, definitely jump off the fence. Do it just with the right expectations. I've used other ISA companies in the past that promised appointments and everything. And I didn't have to call even people. I'd go on the appointments and they were wondering what I was doing there and they weren't looking to sell. And it was a waste of my time. And it's to the point where I didn't even want to work with it. So if you have it where he's just studying the phone calls, I mean, it's been an absolute blessing. There's just the money that you put into it, you definitely get that back out and more. I tell people to definitely look into your company. Totally happy with it, and to the point where, like I said, in the near future, I'd like to add at least one, possibly even 2 more. So I appreciate you
Awesome.
guys.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Corey. Appreciate you. And folks, we'll see you here on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Bye.